I'm a hair mineral analysis expert. I have a background in functional medicine, and I educate people using HTMA testing to maximize health, erase debilitating symptoms, and gain energy. I'm a multi-time kettlebell sport world champion, and I'm constantly searching for high-performance pros from all over the world to bring you this human optimization podcast. My name is Lisa Pitel-Killah. Welcome, everybody, to a brand new episode of the Human Optimization Podcast. I am so super ecstatic to have with me today good friend and a client, Cynthia Roulston from Toronto. She's been kind enough to join me. And Cyn has been literally one of the people in kettlebell. She was one of the first kettlebell people that I met at an Igatsu competition in Toronto. I think that was in 2015, actually. And I was just amazed by what she had done that day and the lift she was doing. And it just gave me some true inspiration. And I was addicted to kettlebell sport after that competition and just your positivity. And you know what? We all deal with some health problems throughout our life, whatever the case may be. Everybody's a little bit different. We're all unique. And so I'm going to pass the mic over to Cyn to tell everyone a little bit more about yourself.
All right. Well, first, thanks so much for having me here today. It's an honor to be on your podcast. I guess I can tell you I'm 47 years old. And for the last 18 years, I've been super blessed to be an elementary school teacher. I'm also a kettlebell sport athlete. I've been lifting since 2012, I think. And in the CKA, or Canadian Kettlebell Alliance system, in the 63 kilogram weight class, I have my rank 1 in 16 kilogram snatch and CMS in the 20K one-arm biathlon. And I also hold the CKA Canadian record for that event, as well as the record for 16 kilogram one-arm long cycle in the same weight class. So yeah, overall, my health goals though have always just been about moving as well as possible for as long as possible, and to just, you know, enjoy an independent and active lifestyle for like as long as I can.
That is amazing. And wow, what a list of accomplishments. Like, my goodness. And for those of you who don't realize, CMS, that's a huge deal. That's Candidate for Master of Sport. And for many lifters, it takes years to get to that level. So that's really awesome. And yeah, for that record with 16 kilo one-arm long cycle, I mean, how many reps was that? It was something quite ridiculous.
137, I think.
Like, oh my gosh. That's crazy. Super huge accomplishment. You should be very proud of yourself, and so happy that you took time to be with us today and answer a few questions. Yeah, so tell us all about your kind of biggest health struggle. What was it? What are you still working on?
Okay, so first of all, I gotta say, like, I would generally sort of classify myself as a healthy person. Like, I have a master's degree in nutritional science, and I'm very proactive about my health and being and having an active lifestyle. But overall, I think my biggest challenge, and I think a challenge for a lot of people, is managing stress and like keeping that appropriate balance between like good stress, like from training and time with family, and bad stress, like not eating enough or drinking enough water or getting enough sleep or enough recovery time. And I also feel that being a teacher, and I think anyone that works in a profession that's in service to other people or is responsible for the health and well-being of other people, there's an untalked about weight and responsibility that comes with that, that I sort of got triggered for me in 2016 when one of my best friends and colleagues passed away at 41 due to diabetic complications. And that was kind of the first, like, that was my first real experience with depression, but not really recognizing the signs, kind of fluffing it off as adrenal fatigue and, oh, if I just rest, I'll be fine. And then in 2018, in March of 2018, I got a knee injury, just total fluke from accessory work I was doing. And that kind of really spiraled the depression, but also that's when the struggle became real because I was physically limited. Like I couldn't walk downstairs properly. Obviously, I couldn't lift and be active in the way that I had wanted to be. So yeah, it was sort of 6 months of trying to like calm down the inflammation from that then I called you and was like, help.
And
But I think that knee injury was kind of really the trigger that like, okay, there's something going on with like, you're obviously not balancing your stress appropriately for this to have happened. So how are we going to fix this?
right, right. And you know, for many of us, that's what happens. It's just a simple trigger, or maybe we were working on something and that wasn't working. And then there was something that kind of pushed us in another direction, that usually makes us kind of go, I feel like maybe there's something that I need to take a bigger look at, right? Because there's something happening here that I don't like, or that I want to make sure that I fix. So luckily you are aware of it and took the time to, you know, be able to fix it. So, I mean, obviously that stopped you from doing many things that you enjoy, right? So tell us a little bit about how that affected your life and just what you were normally used to doing. You know, how did your health kind of get in the way of all that?
So basically it kind of launched me into, well, actually it was sort of very good because I could either sort of wallow in feeling sorry for myself and doctor says I can't do this or this is not an option, oh well. But instead I chose to launch into like, well, what can I do? Like I can wiggle my big toe or I can do this with my arm, like that's something. And so focusing on the things that I could do and then enlisting people around me. So at the very, like within that first 6 months, you know, obviously I was in close conversation with Abigail Johnston, my kettlebell sport coach. So her programming just based on where my body was at was like kept me moving, which was amazing. And then I went to Dr. Eric St. Ange for chiropractic work, and he was invaluable for like immediate pain management and just making sure that I didn't lose any mobility in my knee. And then after that, worked with Kyle Gentle from Primal Performance as kind of my movement therapist, who once I kind of got some motion back in my knee, he was able to help me further that mobility and then work on the muscles around my knee to help strengthen them. But what was interesting, what was kind of going on in the background is I have a family history of high blood pressure. And so just on my own, I have been experimenting with a plant-based lifestyle, which, oh my goodness, could be a whole other podcast. But it was interesting that the timing of like the injury and then doing this kind of a drastic change to my diet, but it had the impact of making my blood pressure worse. Like it was up there to the point that my doctor was like, you need to be talking medication. And that kind of freaked me out because I knew that that was definitely something I didn't want to do. So that's when I called you and was like really attracted to, well, first of all, I felt really with my nutrition background, I'm very comfortable with balancing macros, but like vitamin and mineral support was something that was not an area of expertise. So I was very happy to meet you and learn about the hair testing. And also I'm a biohack nerd. So I measure my HRV and my blood pressure like daily. So being able to have a quantitative measurement just as another tool to kind of look at the big picture of what was going on or learn more about what was going on. Because I knew things didn't feel normal, but I wasn't quite sure what was out of whack. Like it couldn't really be explained through, you know, I on the outset have this healthy looking lifestyle. So there had to be kind of something else going on. And I knew that hair doesn't lie, right? Like you can't just, you know, pretend to do something for 2 weeks. Like hair will tell you what's going on. So I liked that it would show what my real pattern of behavior had been.
Yeah, and I think there was some pretty big things that that we took from that that were really interesting. couple of deficiencies that we didn't know about. And just the way the body was operating, it was really interesting to see. Because of your injury, you definitely had some acute stress symptoms showing up, right? But it was just the body trying to heal itself from all that inflammation and what was going on. And it's really interesting, you know, there's a couple things that go with HTMA testing, so hair tissue mineral analysis testing. And one is that people discount it based on the medical journals. There's been studies done back in the 80s and 90s, and some of the samples were inconsistent. They didn't use the same samples for each lab. So there was a lot of discrepancies within the actual clinical trials. So I really, really hope that they do those again to show the validity of the test, because I mean, myself as well as all of my clients that have done some type of intelligent nutritional vitamin and mineral supplementation programming based on the results have seen great results from it. So we know that it works. And so tell us a little bit about, because obviously, you know, with you trying some different avenues with respect to blood pressure and getting that under control, tell me the next step. Tell me what the HTMA brought to light for you.
So from the hair testing, so it was neat to see, like you said, basically my metabolic profile was conducive of somebody on a high carbohydrate, low protein diet under some form of acute emotional stress. And I was like, check, check, check.
I got all 3 boxes. Do I get a prize for that?
But it was also, and actually from the outset, it was reassuring to know too, that there was no like major toxicities. Because as a teacher, and I mean, I often wonder about like the water quality in the building, like whether I'm being exposed to asbestos or not. Like I've had some, you know, when you're in the public and so, you know, tightly, who knows what you've been exposed to or what could show up. So it was nice to know that basically I'm a healthy person. and then the things that were brought to light just like completely made sense, but then let me target how I was going to treat those things more directly. So before I would kind of take supplements because it was something I thought I should take or I'd been told women should take, that didn't really have a rationale, that this was, so like for the, you know, seeing that my adrenal activity had been heightened. So that gave me the impetus to then do some adrenal support. And I immediately noticed benefit from doing that. Mm-hmm. The relationship between copper and iron. So there's a family history of who's metabolizing copper in my family. And it was something that I'd been tested for Wilson's disease, but that was kind of a yes or no, like they weren't talking levels. So this was new for me to see and to know that how copper's needed for red blood cell production and how it works with iron. So I could actually be anemic and not have that show on a blood test because my iron levels are normal. And therefore, and it wouldn't actually respond to iron supplementation. So even though I was having signs similar to anemia, that was something that wouldn't have been picked up. And then such an easy fix with copper supplementation. So that was super enlightening. And then the third one was the sodium-potassium relationship and how that's actually connected to mood and depression. So then it made me, you know, I obviously had circumstances happening like at work and in my life that were causing a lot of stress and depression. But then I was like, wow, I'd always been told having high blood pressure, no sodium. So I've always had a low sodium diet, but now I'm like, wow, was I actually, you know, enhancing these symptoms, you know, because of my diet? And then that was a quick fix of just adding some Himalayan sea salt, you know, to my diet.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Pretty incredible, right? That you can.
So yeah, it was super incredible and like so valuable and worth doing. And so now, you know, if I repeat that test it'll be interesting to, I'll have that quantitative comparison that I can make and sort of see how things are going. So I'm a big fan.
Me too. Everybody knows that. It's all I talk about. Everything's based on that. It's like, oh my gosh, how can I adjust this? How can I get that down? How can I fix this? So obviously lots of different things you've implemented. And again, so many people with high blood pressure avoid sodium completely, but the adrenals can't function properly without sodium. It just has to be the right type of sodium, right? So when you're using a nice, good, unrefined sea salt, you're getting all the good mineral nutrition in it. It's not just iodized salt, which is unhealthy. So that's excellent. So tell me now, okay, so now we're about 6-7 months out, I think, from that at least.
Yeah.
You've obviously made some changes. You've worked on the knee. Tell us about some implementations you've done for blood pressure, how it's changed, what's going on now.
So some big changes I made was the diatomaceous earth.
Mm-hmm.
Huge proponent of that. I think if you have any form of history of blood pressure or you have pets that you live really close with, you should definitely take it. But that was something that I implemented along with just mindfulness training and meditation. So really just getting up an hour earlier so that I make a priority to fit those things in, along with restorative movement for my rehab, prehab, injury prevention. And then just some simple supplement support that's like literally simple and is actually targeting things that I know why I'm taking. It couldn't be any easier, really. But it has had a profound change. Like, for example, prior to this, my blood pressure on average, and even prior, like pre-injury, my blood pressure average was about 145/90.
Mm-hmm.
And currently, like in the last 2 months, my averages have been like 125/70.
That's amazing. Wow. Because I remember us talking consistently, and then you're like, oh my gosh, look at this. And you'd send me a picture. And I was like, that's You're like, oh my God, look at this. I'm like, this is why I do what I do, because I love getting those pictures and those texts and those emails, whatever it is, and to see that change. And for me, I think the cool part was, interestingly enough, when you went back to school, right? Because you had taken some time.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Because I was coming over having a year off. So that did sort of give me time to implement a lot of the stuff that I tried, particularly around mindfulness training. But I was nervous. Okay, so when I go back and I'm actually working again, and this was even 6 months into the school year. So like in June of this year, that's normally when my blood pressure is like at its peak. And then of course it lowers in the summer months when I'm off.
Yeah.
But I actually had my lowest blood pressure readings at what normally would have been the most stressful time, and still was the most stressful time of the year.
Still was. We know how to manage it properly. Yeah.
So
amazing.
So that was the kind of like, yay, like it really works. So yeah.
Well, and it's amazing because it works from your commitment, right? It's your commitment to whatever program, that you have, and you made it work for you. You made it simple enough to be able to do it every day. And your commitment is the reason that it is working consistently. And I think that's pretty awesome.
And definitely not listening to conventional medicine all of the time. Like that's something that's actually shocked me, and listening to people of like, yeah, doctor says I can't do this, so I just don't do that anymore. It's like, but have you tried something else or tried moving? But it's funny how sometimes we like use that as an excuse to stay where we are, and yet like so much more change is possible if you're willing to like I had really nothing to lose by experimenting with these simple changes, and made the biggest difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
and
it definitely takes commitment. And
yeah.
to not have to take medication, like I'd happily do these few things and be drug free than on, dependent on pharmaceuticals.
Yes, no, I agree with that. That's definitely my kind of my mantra, right? I always want to try everything natural until I'm completely exhausted first, but before I dive into things like that, for sure. And I mean, definitely there are places for all of those things depending on your situation, but when we can avoid them, I think that's where we're trying to get to. So that's awesome. Good. So tell me, moving forward, what's next? How are you going to continue? What's going to happen in the world of Sin?
So, well, health-wise, pretty much, I mean, I feel like I found a little recipe that's working for me.
Good.
So I'm gonna continue that, and then just kind of be hyper aware for the adrenal support, and kind of see how the school year kind of continues to play out. I feel like there's definitely rationale for kind of getting that extra support at certain times of the year. So for now, I feel good, but it's something in the back of my mind. And maybe I'd like to repeat the hair test analysis just to see what's happened with the copper.
Yeah.
And so whether I want to continue taking that or not. But yeah, otherwise, keeping it simple with what I have, and definitely, keeping the mindfulness, meditation, getting outside, really respecting that restorative practice.
Yeah.
I'll be keeping that up too.
Good. And tell us what's next. What's your next big goal? What do you have on the horizon?
So, well, kettlebell sport wise, nationals are coming up next March.
March 21st.
So, basically that I'm looking towards that. So I'm hoping that that's going to be the first time I'll try 24 kilogram one arm long cycle for the first time. Yeah. So that's cool. And then there's a couple comps coming up locally, like in Toronto and Ottawa in October and December, that I'll try to keep working on my snatch. So it doesn't fall to the wayside. But yeah, it's really gunning for March.
Yeah.
March 2020.
Excellent. Well, I think those are some pretty big goals. And for those of you who don't realize, so I know we're talking a lot about health and just the practice of all that. But for those who haven't heard any of the podcasts about kettlebell sport, when you're under a 24 kilo bell, that's a big deal, right? That's 55 plus pounds or 55 pounds.
Okay.
That is heavy. And when you're talking about doing hundreds of reps, that to me, that's a big deal. So I think when you're up to that level, making sure that you're dialed in, especially with your mindfulness, for 10 minutes, with your mindfulness, with your meditation, recovery. We all forget about the stretching and the recovery and what it takes, getting enough sleep, especially when you're working and it's stressful, right? You're a teacher, you've got lots of things to do. You've got, extracurricular activities, you've got report cards, you've got all kinds of things. So making sure you're taking a step back from that aspect so that you can move forward with those outside of work goals too, right? As well as your in-work goals. I think that's really important, and that's a lot of the time people forget about that part, and it's super important. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Anything else we want to talk about?
Not that I can
Anything else
think
you want to
of.
share? No? Good. Okay. No, that was awesome. And, everybody, I do really... I use HTMA on myself. I've used it on myself for years and years and years. And I've definitely been able to saved myself a lot of grief by actually finding the underlying causes of many things. And in the same token, I've also biohacked and done a few things to discover things like diatomaceous earth and other things, and what the uses are for those. And I do think that, there was some skepticism at first about diatomaceous earth stripping potassium from the body, but I actually did a little experiment on myself. And I like to do these every now and again, just because I do my hair analysis rigidly, usually about every 3 months. I'm very methodical, so that I can learn if I'm doing something new, what's it doing to me? What could it potentially do to a client? And the interesting fact was, after someone had told me that, because there's different kind of binders out there similar to diatomaceous earth that people use and that they say are better. And I've tried a couple of them, and I went back to diatomaceous earth because of how I felt when I was taking it. And I don't necessarily take it for blood pressure, I take it for other reasons. And my potassium actually went up during that 3-month period after going back and implementing it. So I found that really interesting, because I wanted to see and do that little experiment just to kind of see how that actually panned out. So I was happy when I found that out, because I really do kind of, I don't know, it just seems to work really well with my chemistry. So I take it religiously as well. And I definitely feel better when I do. So I'm just happy that mix worked for you. And for those of you who haven't discovered the HTMA test, you can go onto my website. I have webinars all the time. We've got live trainings. We use it just so that we can be better and better and better, and so that we can get older but get younger. Because ultimately we use all this to biohack so that we're able to do whatever we want to do at whatever age we are, because it's just a number.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that was wonderful. And thank you so much for being on today.
And thanks for having me.
Absolutely, my pleasure. It was great to chat, and good luck in all your endeavors. I know we'll stay in touch, and maybe once we get your next HTMA done and we make a few more quick changes, we'll have you back on again to talk about how those went.
Love it.
Amazing. Okay. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Make sure to give us a thumbs up, subscribe, head out to Killah, KILLAH.org, and get notified when all these brand new podcasts come out every 2 weeks. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to today's show. Head on over to Killah, KILLAH.org, to gain access to some amazing resources that will help you gain energy, rid yourself of debilitating symptoms, and be the best version of you. Remember to give this podcast a like and follow me on Instagram at coach.killah. I'm here every 2 weeks with a brand new episode of the Human Optimization Podcast. Until next time.